Hello and welcome everybody to Mystical Awakenings with Deb and RJ. We have a snowy night here in Michigan, but we're here and happy.
But we have a very special guest.
Oh
yes.
Boy, do we! Someone we truly love and admire, and just can't wait to get him on here. So I'm not even going to talk anymore. I'm going to shut up.
You know, in our minds, he doesn't need any introduction, but for those who would like to know, Ronny stars in the Travel Channel's hit series Expedition Bigfoot. He also stars in Paranormal Caught on Camera. Ronny is an independent researcher, screenwriter, and author of the critically acclaimed and best-selling book Monsterland, Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot and Orange Orbs, which details the history and connection between the various phenomena, highlighting his experience in a research area called Monsterland in central Massachusetts. Ronny was the first person ever to cast a Bigfoot print in the Bay State from a trackway discovered by a couple in Leominster, I think I said that right, State Forest, in the summer of 2010. He is a regular speaker at the Exeter UFO Festival, New England UFO Conference, and ParaFest, Michigan UFO Contact, and has been featured on nationally syndicated radio programs like Coast to Coast AM with George Noory, Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, and was recently highlighted on his research in a cover story in the Boston Herald. Please welcome our friend, Ronny LeBlanc.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Ronny.
Great to see you.
It's great to see you. Thank you for coming. Well, I know,
Absolutely.
We follow your schedule. Holy smokes.
I was telling Ronny before the show that the Rolling Stones don't have nothing on him, man. His schedule is unreal.
You are busy, busy, busy. And I can say for the record, because I know there's always a little thing about that, you are my favorite on the show. My first favorite. So, my goodness. So you have been incredibly busy. You're doing library talks. You're doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And you have a family. How in the heck? You must be a lot younger than us. How do you
Turned
keep
50
up?
in January.
Oh,
So it's definitely starting to catch up with me, but it's day to day. The kids are a little bit older now, but they're still young, need attention, things like that. But just doing this library tour, which has been a blast, and having an outlet for people to come, and it's free. And I do different talks on Bigfoot and UFOs and paranormal hotspots. And the cool thing about it, it's really been an eye opener for me. Just solidifies how many people really have had some incredible experiences out there, and they have no way of really talking to anybody about it. So it's really been eye-opening to see people after the talk sit around, and people someone explains their encounter, and then suddenly we hear 5 other ones, because
it gets going.
It's a safe place now that I can share my story, or that and so you just see it kind of like unravel. It's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool, because at the UFO conference we put on, you've been there. People have a chance to get up and tell their story for a couple hours, and we had one gentleman there who's 70 years old and never told a story. He was almost in tears because he never had a platform to talk about it. So I know exactly what you mean. It's so cool when people get up and tell their story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's like I heard one last week. It was I was in Western Massachusetts, North Adams, which has a lot of Bigfoot activity. It's on the border of New York. It has a lot of UFO activity as well. And there was a gentleman that was a ex-Vermont state trooper.
Wow.
He was, I think, 25 or 26 years on the force, recently retired. He told me that he personally investigated 30 UFO sightings throughout the course of his career as a police officer. And he said there is some crazy going on. And he said just this past summer, him and his wife are sitting on the deck having their nightly cocktails, and they have an amazing view of the North Adams Reservoir. And as you know, like, there's always seems to be UFO sightings in and around, going over or coming out of water, and specifically freshwater reservoirs. And he sees 3 balls of light in a triangle formation hovering over the water. Realizes it's a triangle UFO, and this is just this past summer. And I was like, anticipation, like, so did it like take off like crazy? Like, what happened? Did it just disappear? He's like, no, it just went it went under the water, and he could see the lights going under the water. I'm like, oh. So there's some pretty amazing stories, and he's like, I haven't told anybody this, you know, like, so it's like, that's what's been great.
Well, you know, we know less about the ocean than we do outer space. And
right.
You know, they're hiding down there. They're living down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It seems to be pointing in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, during the UFO Contact last year, you didn't make it to that one, but you're going to be there this year. I'm so happy about
can't
that.
wait. Can't wait. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime.
People love you. We love you. Your family. But somebody did film something coming across the sky and very fast and dropped right down in the water.
Now that was with a special camera too. That was with a, I kind of remember what camera you had. Infrared camera. I don't remember, but it was a different camera. But yeah, you could see it come across and right down the water. Yeah,
just went right down.
So
yeah, and to go that speed and then stop, and you know it stopped for a moment or two before it went down, and it wasn't like a spiral or you know what I mean. It just gone real fast.
Yeah, we have somebody out here said they just got their VIP ticket today and their room. Then they're stoked. They're stoked. Yeah, yes. I tickets are. We just put them on sale 2 days ago.
Well, we actually didn't announce it until today. We did an email blast to our previous guests,
but we've had more tickets sell so quick. This is so fast.
We're almost sold out of VIP tickets.
Yes.
Wow!
And Ronny, you are the only person announced so far.
Oh, that's awesome!
Yeah,
congrats!
So, yeah, congrats to you. That's way cool because you know we have a great lineup this year. We announce you, and tickets are boom,
sweet,
flying out the door. So, yeah.
So now, is that area in New York? Was that close to the Hudson Valley, or is that?
It's on its way to it. Yeah, I mean, it's like this whole Massachusetts. It just the fact that it touches New Hampshire and New York and Connecticut and everything, really like the epicenter of all the activity around New England.
Okay.
But yeah, there have been a multitude of sightings, and it seems to be picking up over the past 12 to 18 months.
So is there, I mean, I've never been there, and is there a lot of hills around there?
Yes, there's definitely some mountainous areas, Western Mass, a lot of places are, for skiing, hiking, things like that. And a long history too of Bigfoot stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, now that we're on this subject, Ronny, how do you feel they're connected to the UFOs, the Bigfoot? Is there?
You stole it from.
Well, I'm sorry. Is a connection there?
There definitely seems to be. I mean, if you look at researchers like John Keel and others, but a lot of the Native American legends and stories talk about like just the Yakima tribe, and I talk about that in my talk, how they have a story that they said is not a legend, but that a scary creature with glowing eyes came to live with the tribe and healed everybody and communicated via telepathy and lived with them for decades until it was going to pass away. And it communicated to them to bring it to a spot for it to pass, which they did. And moments after it's taking its last breath, a UFO descends and grabs the body and takes off.
Wow.
And so like, this doesn't maybe answer all of the questions when it comes to where the Bigfoot's going, but it kind of points that maybe some of these things are more alien, interdimensional. Maybe there's another subspecies that is early met. We don't know. I mean, we have so many different species of birds. Right. Why couldn't there be a bunch of different? And our human chain seems to keep on expanding every year. They're discovering another older human, another Homo. So it's constantly seems to be shifting and changing.
I wanted to get into the season you guys did in California. That was pretty cool, man. You guys had a lot going on there, and
Alaska, you mean?
Alaska? No, actually
Oh,
California.
okay. Oh, Redwood, sure.
Yeah. And you guys were, you found this hair that was to a wolf that was actually an endangered species in Alaska. But there was an area there, a huge area that was fenced in by the federal government, I believe. And you did some remote viewing. You had somebody do some remote viewing about this. But do you think the government has some safe havens for Sasquatch? I got that feeling. That's when I watched it. I mean, I just asking you.
I have a sneaky suspicion if they are something else, then they're not just these dumb apes. They're intelligent.
Right.
But if they are something else, then maybe there is, if we're talking about the government working with other alien species, like maybe there is something going on where it's like, hey, you guys, these protected forests, these areas where no one can camp at night, maybe those are the places that you can
hang out.
Yeah.
Right.
There definitely seems, I never thought people would ask me, is there a conspiracy with things with it? And I talked about this pretty openly about the show, about Expedition Bigfoot, and how just even during the Washington State with the shadow that we captured,
that was amazing.
And what was awesome as we captured that, but what was a little upsetting for me was the fact that they edited out me talking to it. That I spoke out loud and said, "Hey, we know you're up there.
Right.
Show yourself." And then moments later, a shadow, with our flashlights, is projected on the rock wall, like it revealed itself. And I thought that was important to keep that in, because that action created the reaction of the shadow. Right. But I think maybe it's too much for people to handle the fact that it understood what I was saying.
Right. It was
absolutely. And maybe that's like, hey, we can't leave this. We have to edit this out.
Oh no, that's
gut feeling. But
I'm glad you're being honest about it, because people do need to know.
Yeah. So that's that was something. Just for me, like, how come that was edited out? And I understand you don't have enough time. And again, I can kind of go in a direction now. Someone's trying to block that, but it could simply be, hey, we just got to cut to this, and we did have it in, and the network pulled it out. So I didn't get into any type of argument about it or anything like that. It was just an observation that I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting that this wasn't kind of, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, I can understand if there is some sort of secrecy around this, or trying to make sure it doesn't go too far off the rails in regards to stuff that I kind of talk about.
Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, Ronnie, that episode and that particular part of the episode, it's probably the most talked about, episode that ever aired. Because that was amazing.
The piece that I try to tell people is that seen through my eyes what I had seen, and I would see that shadow, but there was hairs coming out of the shadow, like you could clearly see that this was an animal or a human-looking thing standing on two legs walking across.
Yeah.
And if you look back at that video, you can see that shadow reflected in the water. So,
oh wow.
That's pretty incredible for us to capture that, and I'm happy if that's one of the only things I can really bring to the table, so to speak, in regards to pointing a light, no pun intended, of what this may be and why we haven't been able to find bodies and bones and all this.
Exactly.
Something else that is maybe tied to the UFO phenomenon.
She brings up a good point when people talk about that, because how many times in the woods do you find bones of a bear or bones of a bobcat? You don't.
Right.
It's a luck of there's hunters that have been out there 30, 40 years, haven't seen anything. But people do stumble upon bones, but by the time they find that body has been ripped, apart across the forest floor, and porcupines eat bones, and things can disappear pretty quickly.
Right. And some animals literally bury, when they kill something or they find something, dead, they'll bury it.
Yeah.
So,
that's a theory Dr. Jane Goodall has, that she believes that, believes in the possibility of Bigfoot, and believes that maybe they are so smart, so intelligent, that they understand that in order for their survival, they have to bury their own dead. And there was a recent Netflix documentary, can't remember the exact name of it, but they were seeing that there was evidence of what looked like early human kind of going into caves and burying their dead, but these things were kind of off the chain.
Right.
And it showed examples of them possibly using fire to even get to these places to drop the bodies.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more that we are starting to understand about our past and everything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been a big researcher on the Anunnaki, and they were amazing with genetics. I mean, they could make anything genetically because they were so far advanced. Well, they are so far advanced, but even us. But back then, suppose they came here before 150,000 years ago. If Giganticus Picus, I don't know how you say it, but the big ape. Well, what if they did mix that with some kind of human here? Well, I mean, it's a possibility that might, and they would be intelligent. I mean, Neanderthal had a bigger brain than we did. They're probably smarter than we were. So,
I've always looked at the idea of looking more primate, and then looking at the gray aliens or the aliens, and kind of like that merging almost looks like us.
Right.
It kind of has the blending of that in a sense, but.
And especially your banner.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to use
awesome.
That.
Yeah. That was great.
It's my buddy Chris from Vegas, who created that using AI.
For some reason, your sound keeps cutting out.
Oh,
Ronny.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what the deal is. But every once in a while, like that whole sentence went dead.
Lost it. Okay.
Yeah. But you said something about one communicating telepathically, and in working with experiencers, ET experiencers, and now learning more about Bigfoot and talking to more people, I'm hearing more and more of that as well. Now, ET experiencers, that's been a thing for a very long time, and I've even experienced that, personally, the telepathic communication. But it hasn't been too terribly long, this past year or two, that I heard about Bigfoot communicating the same way.
Yes.
So that, to me, do you feel that's another link? Almost like they must be otherworldly or other dimension because of the way they communicate?
So I was just talking about this to somebody earlier today, that after I had spoken and had joined, gone to your conference, and RJ, you had done a clearing. You guys both did a clearing for me, and we're talking about coming back from Alaska. I felt like I had carried something back, right?
Right.
And coming to see you guys, I think I had mentioned that there was a rock that got thrown at our shed from the woods, and my wife was outside, said something was large and crashing, through, but couldn't see anything. And this rock comes flying out, hits our shed. She's on the phone with her sister, and her sister can hear it on the other side. And I finally come, running out after she was yelling at me to come. And you mentioned the remote viewer, Chris Duncan in California. So it hit my head to text him. And I said, Chris, can you dial in to my house right now? Here's my address, like giving him the longitude and latitude coordinates.
Yeah.
I said, I think we have a Bigfoot throwing rocks at our shed. Because this has been going on for a month, where we're hearing something hit the shed, and we thought it was like acorns or something.
Right.
Every time we went out there, it was happening. So he's remote viewing, and he's texting me back. He goes, "You're on to something." He goes, "I'm seeing a juvenile cloaking throwing rocks and trying to antagonize you, and there's a parental figure that is there watching and that is invisible as well. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
I didn't know how to accept this. So then I come to your conference. I come back home, and again, this is a couple days after this. I go out on my deck. It's 3:34 in the morning. Say a word verbally, but I mentally project.
Right.
If you are real, if this is real, I want you to throw a rock at the shed right now. And I mean right, and then boom, a rock hits the shed.
Wow.
Yay.
Opens up the door, the window from the top floor. And says, Dad, I heard that. I heard that. And when that rock hit that shed, shook with energy, like I touched, put my finger in a socket.
Right.
And I just was like, okay, you're in charge. I'm going to bed. You got it.
Confirmation.
And so that was amazing to me, that, you know, that receiving of that message that I just sent. I didn't say anything like that because I want to be like, okay, if this is real, and I believe that these things can do certain things like this, let's see if this will happen. And the odds of a rock hitting my shed
When
like
you
that
ask
at 3:30, 4 in the morning,
right.
you know, is, and I've had, you know, psychic mediums that have come, clairvoyants that have come through prior to us even purchasing this house. The park that we live next to is a park that my wife would go running. My wife and I would go running and hiking around there. But I had a psychic medium tell me that, yeah, they're coming down from Leominster State, coming into the park, going to the water to feed, and coming up these trails, which literally runs right by my house.
Wow.
And so when I was filming in Alaska the first 2 weeks, my wife thought she was going to hit a person because someone had come out of the woods onto the road at 9:30 at night on the brakes, and she saw this tall, slender person that she could see right through. It looked like static electricity on the TV screen, and just walked across the road and went into the woods. And so we seem to be right either in like a coming through and traversing through, or right smack dab in some weird spots. So we've been seeing some crazy stuff.
Yeah. Check out the ley lines there.
That reminds me, when you were in Alaska, when Russ was in the cave, you know, he couldn't see this being sitting there where they had the certain camera on it. You could see it. It was sitting there. And then when we took the camera away, it looked like the closest thing that reminds me of the Predator movie, where it's kind of like just waving through.
Yep.
That's amazing, man. That is amazing. I mean,
and you wonder what these things are, because, you know, they talk about shapeshifters, and so form, its true form, is it, you know, we've heard that from other people. There was somebody was just talking to me about their husband or boyfriend works for Border Patrol by the border of Mexico, and he thought they saw a migrant behind a bush, and when they went behind the bush, out came a coyote on the other side.
Wow.
Ooh.
The person. And you know, and the same thing, there's certain tribes that talk about they have seen a Bigfoot walking and actually transform into something else, like a wolf. There was a documentary crew up in Northern California a few years back that, and again, I don't know how real this confessional was on YouTube, but they were sharing that 3 or 4 of the crew members watched like this to like a fox or a wolf, and then something else, and then to a smaller thing, and walk off. I mean, so it starts to kind of make you wonder what these things can do in the sense of changing actually what we're seeing and affecting that. Because I do feel like the UFO and alien and the whole thing is the scary part of why it hasn't been revealed, is they can control space-time.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, people have this missing time scenario, and they have stuff lodged in their subconscious, but it's not present, but they've lost 20 minutes, and something like that, really is like we're a slave to these things more so than us being up here.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. But it's
Well, since you're talking about this, the animal thing, we played the tape that we thought we had a call back to you guys up in Michigan there, and when we were there, I remember we were telling you that there was probably 30 ravens there, and ravens don't really get together like that, and they were following us around and squawking at us, and we really couldn't see them, but we could hear them flying over our heads.
Well, we could see, like, if they would fly over, you would hear them, the whooshing of the wings, and you could see the shadow. But by the sound, you knew it was them. And it was very odd because as the group sat together, they made a circle around us. And they were
there is a connection to crows and Bigfoot.
That's what I'm saying. I talked to an author. He was telling me that.
Yeah, Kalani Lasperitis, who wrote The Psychic Sasquatch and the Sasquatch People. He was actually used to live out in Western Mass, I think North Adams. He was a professor there for a little while, and then he was living in, I think, Oregon and Washington State. But he had really, he's interviewed over 200 plus people that have had more of the interdimensional kind of interactions with Sasquatch, telepathy and all that. But he talked about crows being, think about them as almost being like mini drones, remote viewed, Bigfoot using these things to actually see through them what's happening in the forest without revealing themselves. And so they seem to show up in areas that have Bigfoot activity, or there's like that weird collection of 30 of them all together, a murder of crows. Or
And these were ravens. I'm telling you, they were ravens.
Yeah, there's a difference in the sound between a raven and a crow, and they were definitely ravens, but same family, right?
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting because once we started getting more, I don't even know if you want to say activity. Well, it was before the callback, but you could just sense it. You know what I'm talking about. You just, you sense it. The ravens disappeared.
Oh, wow.
They were gone. And then you had that feeling.
Yeah.
Something's here and it feels like it's Bigfoot.
It's like hitting that good golf shot.
Again, like that shape-shifting thing too, right? Like this idea that we've been told that they know how to mimic things, and we think sounds, but maybe they can mimic things completely.
Yes.
Who knows?
Well, because they spend so much time out there, they're living with these other creatures, and I'm sure they got it down to a T how they can mimic other animals. Yeah, it's cool, man.
Yeah. So, do you feel you have recovered from the Alaska episode? That episode season, that was wild.
It was definitely wild, and it's now 2 years ago, 2+ years now that we filmed that. Typically it takes a good 6 to 8 months from pre-production production to actually see it on the screen, and it just felt like it was eons ago, but it still left a mark on me. Like, that place is beautiful, but there's something ancient and evil about certain sections of that place, because it just had this energy that felt kind of dark. It doesn't feel like welcoming. It just feels very like, you can feel a lot of people lost their life trying to kind of these areas. And there's a lot of strange legends too, like the Kushtaka and different stuff like that, where it's they're taking over your body, your mind, and everything else. And we heard some incredible stories when it came to that, and you start to kind of go, is this real? But a lot of people, are seeing these things.
A lot of people come up missing too. That's So, it's weird. I mean, I'm not really saying that Bigfoot does that, or it's just weird what goes on there.
I think I think there's something to that. I think there's could be, certain individuals within the, Bigfoot. We have bad people, good people. Maybe there's some of that happening out there. We know there's bad people doing bad things, but there's definitely, I think, too many people going missing, that there should be a bigger concern, I think, of what's happening, of like what David Paulides is doing with his research and his missing 411 books. So
I totally agree.
But on the flip side of that, you got to remember that Bigfoot probably knows people. They have guns there, and they may be protecting themselves. So
sure,
yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, there could be so many things. People ask me all the time, do you think these people go missing because they were abducted? So, that could be a part of it. I posted a map. It was actually on a Bigfoot site on Facebook, I think last week, of missing persons and Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of correlation there. But does that mean that it is Bigfoot? Does it mean that it's UFOs? Does it mean it's bear? I mean, I think it's a little bit of everything. These remote areas, there's also a lot of human trafficking going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just don't want to see Bigfoot take all the rap for this.
Right.
Because I think there's more to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of it could, some of it could also be abductions.
Yeah.
They got friends in high places, so we want them to know that.
Yeah. And you know what? If you look at the earlier reports from Native Americans talking about the cannibal women, like these creatures were attacking and stealing children and doing things. So it kind of connects to these early reports, and we just kind of, I think a lot of researchers like, no, Bigfoot is just a sweetie, do they really know?
No.
Well, I read something where they got it down to color, like the real dark hair ones and the brown ones and cinnamon. They have different personalities, So I mean, people come up with a lot of stuff. But
that kind of came out in the Alaska season as well. That there was a difference in even how they felt.
There was reports that seem to be, and researchers that are up there saying that they're more aggressive, whether that's because they just don't encounter humans as much,
right?
Or they're a little bit more bolder up there and realize that, like, what is this, as opposed to a learned behavior in the sense that, hey, this is a threat, let's stay away. But from the different reports, it sounds like they a lot more aggressive, a lot more willing to rip you apart than another spot where it's going to just walk away,
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I've seen some videos, and whether they're real or not, but if they are, I've seen them throwing like 30-foot trees like they're a toothpick.
Yeah.
So, they're very strong. So, I wouldn't mess with them. That's for sure.
No.
It was funny that you guys were in Kentucky and that gentleman came up to you guys at the gas station and he said he did some military training out there and that his superiors told him that they're there, right?
Yeah, that was I think with Bryce. And what's interesting is I've heard several cases of Bigfoot creatures being seen on military bases. One of them was right next door here at Fort Devens, which is 5 miles down the road.
Oh, wow.
That a military police officer was chasing after a crimson-colored Bigfoot that was on the military base, which, by the way, used to have the CIA and the NSA here, I'm told from several sources. But the military police officer chased this Bigfoot into the Nashua River, where it just vanished, where it just disappeared. And Edwards Air Force Base as well. They had I talked about in the book, in my first book, that they had the MPs with starlight scopes and said, hey, you might see some tall, hairy creatures with blue eyes. Don't engage, just observe, leave them alone, just let them do what they're doing.
Right.
So it's like there seems to be some people that are in the know in regards to this kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm hoping to see more stuff getting revealed, but I know like David Grush just had a meeting in New York, and he's talking about space time and stuff that I've been kind of believing that's what it seems to be, and he's coming forward with that kind of stuff, which is a little earth shattering. And I think it was yesterday too. They're talking about a threat, imminent threat on our national security, and someone keeps on talking about that it's coming from space. So I don't know what's going to come of that, what may unravel, some interesting things happening, especially around a political season. I think things could kind of go sideways.
Right. Yeah, and then you're stuck with the, what do you kind of listen to and what do you definitely not listen to, because there's all of it out there, and we really don't know, and that's why we do what we do.
We're gonna, I think we might see a presidential candidate really using the UFO problem as another. Hey, I'm going to unveil these secrets, and we might see that as a really prominent part of their campaign. If something happens, if there's a crazy, I do believe we're going to have a mass sighting this year. Yeah, something significant. We'll see if that happens, but.
Yeah, so it's kind of quiet right now. I mean, something's brewing now. You can just feel it, something's going on, because we're, there's no doubt since they released those TikTok and other videos that people are on board a lot more now, and you can't hide it, and they're here, so they've been here.
Yeah, even the Chinese air balloon that they shot down over Alaska, has now been revealed over the past couple of days that it was a cylindrical shaped object. That it wasn't a balloon. It was the classic kind of the early UFOs that people were seeing in the 1909 and that type. There.
Well, they shot one down here over Lake Huron in Michigan too.
Right.
Yeah, a week after that, or whatever.
Maybe it's the same thing. I mean, there's some weird stuff that's kind of going on, and they were pretty hush about it.
Yeah, and honestly, we all know, or some of us know, there are sightings daily. There really are, and so many different types of crafts or ships or whatever orbs. They're there, and they are being seen. Finally, things are being a little more reported than they used to be, but it takes, things like Expedition Bigfoot to open people up, and shows like this, and all of us telling, people it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. And I'm one, I've been kind of talking about this for a little while, and I think the timing might be right for it to happen. Is there's a lot of negative talk about AI.
Yeah.
And how, it's going to trick us, and this is a UFO, and it's really not, or what have you. But I think the way to use AI is to really try to see if we can try to connect the dots and find the dots that we're not necessarily looking for. So have it look at UFO reports, have it look at astronomical events and historical events and all these different things. And maybe it figures out, hey, 3:30 on Tuesday, get ready in Buenos Aires, Brazil, something's going to pop, I think that could be an amazing tool for, kind of jamming all this stuff together, because I think it is connected, but we just have to try to see where it all connects.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could be used for some amazing stuff. I'm just worried about humans using it for the wrong stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I think it's part of our evolution. We're going to get there. No doubt about it.
We'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly with it, for sure.
Oh yeah, unfortunately.
Like with anything.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that made me know for sure that I wanted you to come to the Michigan UFO Contact was the episode, and you know what I'm going to say, where you said, I need to go meditate. It's like, he's it. I feel meditation is just absolutely, it's the best if you're going to do anything for yourself, if you can't exercise, if you can't whatever, meditate. It's also a great way to connect with interdimensional everything, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, did they make fun of you? Did you have a hard time even getting that into the show? Tell me about this.
The two things that I brought to the table for ideas of what to implement, because we're always pushing tech and new technology, but I'm like, we have this amazing technology right here that we should use more. And so I brought in the idea of like, let's bring Chris Duncan back to help with remote viewing, because this guy's an expert in this, so we can harness him, and we got along great. And then the meditation piece, and it's something that I do on a daily basis. My practice has fallen, but it's one of these tools to kind of get you in the moment, in the now, control your breath,
right,
and really kind of heighten your awareness around you. And so, when that idea was like, I don't know if this is going to work, or how are you planning on using this? And it's like trying to, connect with the forest, and then maybe pick up on these things if I feel that they are something else and not just an animal.
Right.
There's a connection there that I can kind of make. And they were like, for 20 minutes, like filling me and like, kind of like, all right, what's going on? Are you feeling anything? And I started to feel like there was a weird, and when you're kind of get to that place, you start to kind of sense something, and I felt like there was an energy from right behind me to the right. And I was like, okay, I think I got something. This feels intense. I didn't feel it 10 minutes ago. It just showed up. And sorry, I'm in an area that I felt we were in their kind of like backyard. Like as soon as we crossed a certain area, I'm like, I feel like we shouldn't go any further. And that was the spot where I wanted to meditate to see if I could either get welcomed or pushed away.
Okay.
And bless you. And shortly after I started walking down that trail, here comes a rock.
Yeah.
The spot where I felt where I was meditating, there was something behind me. So it came right from that area.
Right.
And that kind of confirmed my suspicions. But then I was like, all right, let's see if we can push this a little bit more. And a second one, and then eventually the third.
Yeah.
Now, what many people don't know, there was a fourth rock, which never made it because it was down. I had to relieve myself.
Oh.
And I decided to do it on the trail and learn the error of my ways pretty quickly when I realized what I was doing and what that looks like to a Bigfoot, that I'm marking my territory. And here comes another rock, and I kind of had my pants halfway down kind of thing. And the camera guy was kind of doing the same thing. And I just was like, whoa! Like we got out of there, but we didn't capture it. Thank God.
Oh my God!
But I realized after I did that, I was like, oh my, am I an idiot? Like, what am I thinking? So
right.
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
I didn't know that part. But
No,
I love it. That's great.
Thanks for sharing that.
People too.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Now you said it publicly on the air. But I also remember in that episode, you had the rocks being thrown at you. You definitely connected, I think, in meditation with it. But there were also some lights in the sky.
Yes.
Same time.
It's interesting too, is there's people can be in different sections of the forest, and at the same time there's things that are happening. And we're going to try to do something like this in New York in a few months, where we're going to try to conduct a ghost investigation at the Shanley House,
Right,
UFO Night Watch, and then a Bigfoot investigation all at the same time in the same vicinity, to see if we can get something that maybe crisscrosses between or shows up all at the same time. because I do think there's some interesting connections with all this kind of stuff. And
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the lights, for whatever reason, there seemed to be some connection with Bigfoot. There seems to be connection to the UFO phenomenon as well.
That's what I like about the team we work with, MAP at the Michigan Area Paranormal Investigator Team. We do investigation, like, you know, we'll be looking for all of it, you know.
And we do a lot of crazy experiments that most people wouldn't even consider doing.
See, I love that. I love that you guys do that, because you have to think inside the box has not been working, right? For 50. So we have to do things that outside, and I think with, you know, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, that's kind of merging, where it's like we start to understand that spooky action at a distance and things that we think are like magic are kind of designed that way, and you can hack these things, you know.
Yeah, and to me, you know, being inside the box is being stuck in that third dimensional everything way of being. It's when you can open that up and kind of see through what they call the veil. You know,
and maybe that's the whole purpose.
Exactly. Now we're able to connect more with all of these beings, because that's where they are.
Right. And it could be just like, hey, we're over here. You have to kind of ascend. You have to kind of
raise your vibration.
To get over here. But the best that we can do is flash these lights and have a hairy guy run back and forth every once in a while.
That's cool. I like that.
You know.
Here we are, TT. You know,
like come on.
Yeah. A little closer.
Yeah.
Raise that vibration. Raise your awareness. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Exactly.
So Ronnie, what do you think Bigfoot is?
I think more than ever that it is something that is considered interdimensional or alien. However, like the idea that it's not completely this like spirit, it's leaving physical impressions. I've casted a footprint that is not human. Other reports of people, you know, again, we got eDNA, we got hair of things. So it's leaving physical traces, but somehow has ability to, change shape. I mean, we're hearing about Northrop Grumman, different defense contractors working on aircraft that can change its shape. It can change its molecular structure. And this could be something that certain things can actually do themselves. There's people that believe that these orbs are them.
Yeah.
That they're turning themselves into these balls of light, and like Melinda Marcan, who's done a lot of macro photography with these orbs, and we see all these faces. Like there's people riding in these things.
Yeah.
They're vehicles of some sort, and shamans supposedly were able to do this and change themselves into balls of light so they can travel, vast distances and then rematerialize.
Yeah, and you guys caught that. You guys caught that on a show, I believe.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. Across the river, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you guys caught that. I really do.
Yeah.
It almost sound like we're like stalkers of the show or something.
Well, no, it's the most incredible show that was on.
RJ makes a great point because, Dr. Maria couldn't see it with her naked eye, but the FLIR was picking up some kind of being like sitting there almost in a meditative, like,
hell yeah.
And then orbs hovering above. It's like, what's going on?
Right. So
yeah, that was pretty amazing.
So you've got a busy year. It's amazing. I can't believe all the stuff you're doing. You're going to be in Michigan at the Michigan Paracon the last week of August. You're going to be at our gig, the Michigan UFO Contact Convention, in the third week of September.
Yeah, can't wait. Best time of the year too.
Yeah, exactly.
Fun stuff. Yeah.
So, and what else you got going on coming up?
I may have a little secret. I may have a little secret project I'm working on.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
that
I know.
And now
you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
There's no sound.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Yeah, it's I might be doing something cool that's going to be popping. Just working on the finer details with that.
Cool.
And then really trying to push Weedscape, my company, which is going to take some time, a startup that we're doing. and kind of doing something different. And so we're trying to get out there with that. But
Right.
we captured some cool stuff with our. We set up a weedscape garden in my backyard. Captured an orb.
Nice.
Flying during the daytime that looks like a rope, a beam of light.
Wow.
And we captured what might be a portal emanating from near the garden.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'll start sharing some of that stuff, but
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the place we were at, we got to record. The lady there, she said the same thing. She saw these portals.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested to seeing that when you got there. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Video those, because sometimes it shows up better on video than what you can see with the naked eye.
Exactly. Yeah. The cameras now, like, that was the big thing with a lot of the fighter pilots having all these new systems on their jets that actually they couldn't see it, but these things were picking up these objects, and our cameras seem to be able to work better than our eyes, it seems.
Yeah.
And we are down to like 2 minutes. Can you tell us really quick what Weedscapes is?
Yeah, so Weedscape is essentially a Massachusetts business. It's the first of its kind that we know about on the planet, but we're doing an outdoor cannabis garden, but it's surrounded by Native American keystone plant species. So 30 different species that have been eradicated, like different milkweeds that are food sources for the monarch butterfly, which is endangered. And so we're trying to create an ecosystem in your backyard by combining these two. We found like the cannabis plants, you can grow hemp with no THC, but we found the bees go nuts over them.
Right.
I'm also incorporating sacred geometry as the layout for the garden. And we started seeing some interesting things happening, like I mentioned, where it's almost like we're creating some energy shifts and what looked like a portal opening up. I'm like, okay, what have we done?
Right.
Right. But it's just really trying to get people reconnected with nature and something that you can do in your own backyard. You don't have to use us. You can do something on your own. But the idea is to try to shift what's been happening with the world and nature, and try to help some of these endangered species that were taking their food sources away.
Yeah. Well, bless you, because I'll tell you, as a healer, I'm saying openly and publicly, there is no better healing than you're going to get from cannabis, but grown this way, holy smokes. Literally
using the sun, not using electrical or fossil fuels to do it, and then the combination with these other plants and flowers actually are emitting energy. So
my brother, we love you, man. I can't wait to see you,
Ronny. We love you,
and keep in touch, man.
To everybody
sounds
out
good.
There, have a wonderful week, and until we meet again,
thank you.
May all of your awakenings be mystical.
Love you guys.
Love you, man.
Love you. Good night.